You are looking at Exploria Stadium more than 4 months after it last hosted a professional match. That won't happen just yet, but the soccer capital of MLS just down the road at Walt Disney World is ready to host. MLS is back.
It's been 4 months since Orlando City last took the pitch. Now the Lions have the honor of bringing back Major League Soccer. They'll open the MLS is Back tournament against Inter Miami, their new southern neighbors, in the league's first Florida derby in almost 20 years. Over the next hour, we'll give you everything you need to know as Orlando City and Major League Soccer make their return.
And it is my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome everybody back to soccer. Evan West and Miguel Gallardo here. This is the Orlando City Tournament Preview brought to you by Ford. Miguel, it is so good to be here. We're actually at this set for the first time for a proper broadcast. Our new digs here at the stadium. Feels good to break them in, but man, soccer's back. Let's go.
It's good to be back. Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not a Zoom background. We are at Exploria Stadium. So happy. It's been over 100 days since we last saw a competitive game, and now MLS in the 25th anniversary comes back with an innovative World Cup style competition where points matter. There's a potential spot for the CONCACAF Champions League at stake,
right,
and also $1 million is at stake. Football is back, and it feels so good.
Yeah, it's a great haul of prizes as well on the line. And look, we know this has been a really, really tough time these past few months. It still is a really tough time right now as the world suffers through an unprecedented pandemic. But we just hope that tonight and throughout this tournament we can bring you just a little bit of entertainment and a little bit of fun to get us through the next month. Because at the end of the day, we know that our fans are here for us, rain or shine.
Sunshine is sliding through. It is producing a warming trend.
Lots of sunshine. Storm system moving over this state.
We're here. Let's get into it right away, Miguel. Inter Miami, Orlando City, the first Florida derby in MLS since 2001. And as we show you a little bit of the footage inside the bubble here and of the players training, this is a big matchup where Orlando and Miami are going to play for the very first time to kick off this tournament. Maybe not exactly how we anticipated it, but what an honor from the league and what a responsibility as well.
Absolutely. It's a massive game. The expectation, the moment we're all going through, and what's at stake, which is not only points, but respect and ability to bring that happiness in a really difficult time to all the supporters, but also the opportunity to start the tournament in the right way. Win the first game. That'll set you up for success in a group-style tournament. 3 points, you're just away from the second phase.
I'm just so excited about it because it's a game that has taken so long to come to fruition. I mean, this is the first MLS derby since 2001 that's been in Florida. A lot of people don't even remember the Tampa Bay Mutiny and the Miami Fusion, but MLS has deep roots in this state. You look back at Carlos Valderrama, some of the great players that have played in these games, guys like Kyle Beckerman and Nick Raimondo, and now to move into the future, Orlando City comes into the league. Then Miami gets introduced through Beckham, and now we finally get to see it again.
Yeah, no doubt that there's a lot of talent in Florida. We've seen it for many years, but this is a completely different era. 2 different teams, 2 different franchises, ownership groups, supporter groups. You look at back then, Pibe Valderrama, what a player he was, but the reality is that the talent was not quite as good as it is today. This is a massive game. This is an opportunity for a team to stake who is the true king of the South.
Well, we're going to find out on Wednesday night, but let's hear from the players themselves. First, you'll hear from Will Trapp for Inter Miami, and then Robin Janssen for Orlando City, their thoughts on this upcoming rivalry game.
Amazingly, we get to open this tournament. We get to open this tournament up against our rival, in-state rival, which it's very exciting for us as a new club to establish what this rivalry will mean. And I think this game will be interesting, right? It'll be something where it won't be perfect, of course, because of the time off. But I think we've been working extremely hard in terms of our game model, our philosophy, our fitness, to go out there and win the game. And Diego and the staff has pushed us immensely, and I know that we're prepared and we're ready to go win the game.
I think it's a huge game, playing Miami, a real derby, and for sure we need to set the level, and we need those 3 points for getting through, and that is our goal to the group, and just to set a high tone of you're not coming here and just do whatever you want. This is Orlando.
Man, I love that from Robin. You're not going to, it may not be really right here at Exploria Stadium, but you're not going to come here and just walk over Orlando City.
Absolutely. Look, they said it, not me. They said the word rivalry and derby. So you can tell that this game means way more than 3 points for these players, and that's only adding fuel to the fire for the fans as well.
Well, we're going to talk about that when we come back. What is a rivalry? How is a rivalry born? What determines that? Because we know that's been a huge flashpoint, and not just with the Miami series, but with Atlanta and other teams as well. We're going to talk about that when we come back. We're also going to hear from both coaches, Diego Alonso and Oscar Pareja. Stay tuned. The Orlando City Tournament Preview Show presented by Ford. We'll be right back.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe it.
Well, listen, people forget that this was during the coronavirus pandemic, so there was nobody in the building. I mean, this was such a rare and weird and strange circumstance where we had to play at the Walt Disney World Resort. So Orlando was actually the home team, even though the games were being played 15 exits down I-4. And Miami Stadium was barely finished at all. Of course, they still play in Fort Lauderdale. They have not finished their stadium in Miami yet, so we're still waiting on that.
Oh my goodness. This is the first time Orlando City and Miami played each other, huh? Oh, unforgettable moment. I mean, when that got announced, everyone was buzzing. And then the game. Oh, the game.
There was a lot of unknowns. You had two coaches, one coach that was new to Orlando City, and Oscar Pareja. He had a lot of experience in Major League Soccer, but he had just come back from Mexico where he lived a different experience in his career. And there was really a lot of unknowns with a lot of quality players that, come to find out, they ended up being really, really special players that made really a big difference in Major League Soccer's history. Little did they know that they were going to have some special players in both of these rosters.
The passion, the excitement heading into that game was immense. I mean, I will never forget that. That uncertainty of how this rivalry was going to begin.
It was just a bizarre way to start what ended up being the greatest rivalry in MLS history.
All I was thinking about is the fact that throughout such a crazy circumstance throughout the world, we were going to have soccer back. And that's what I was thinking about. What I was also thinking about is who was going to get those rights? Who was going to get those bragging rights that this historic game was going to be played for the very first time? And obviously, Orlando City ended up getting those bragging rights.
Listen, I'm just thrilled I'm not going to lose any more hair in the next 10 years or age at all.
Yeah, and I just hope that I'm not still getting stuck on I-4 during the traffic. But I will say, though, that building on that exit 92 and I-4, that will probably still be under construction. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's going to change much at all. Well, we're back here on the Orlando City Tournament preview. Evan and Miguel, and I just want to get into this subject we were talking about before the break about rivalries, because there's a lot of talk about, okay, what makes a rivalry? What defines it? Where's that dividing line? If you could draw a line and say, okay, this is a rivalry. What is a rivalry to you?
Well, there's a lot of people saying that this is not a rivalry yet because they haven't played and rivalry develop over time. But this rivalry has been developing over a lot of time. David Beckham, 7 years in the making to finally get to this stage. And when you look at social media, there's a lot of animosity, a lot of funny banter between both supporter groups. That's only adding to the fire. Who am I to say this is not a rivalry? The fans, they decided. When you look at what the players are saying, I mean, that just makes you believe that this is a big game and it's got great potential.
That's what we always say. If the fans don't like each other, it's a rivalry. Remember when they showed up at the All-Star game into Miami's group? I mean, this has been building for quite some time. We got to hear from both coaches this week from inside Walt Disney World. Let's first hear from Diego Alonso.
En primer lugar, en los 3 partidos que van a contar para la temporada regular, sumar puntos que nos aproximen a empezar a competir mejor, que nos den ánimos, que nos den confianza para que en el resto de la temporada podamos ser capaces de calificar a playoff.
Well, big expectations first, because we have been waiting a lot on competing again. Just try to be on that mode of tension and trying to play for points. The competition is fantastic. So being again around the game is good, but now competing obviously is the major expectation that we have.
I always enjoy hearing Oscar's sense of perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you got to remember that both of these coaches are brand new to their teams, and they both want to establish that culture and that philosophy. So they're eager to get back on the field because it's almost like they have to hit the restart button. And they did a lot of work throughout this pandemic, during this time that the players had to be quarantined. So they're eager to get back and continue to build towards the future.
And we're going to see more about that. When we come back, too, we're going to hear from Jenny Chu a little bit more about Oscar Pareja and the team's preparations for this tournament. Don't go anywhere. We've got way more on the Orlando City Tournament preview presented by Ford.
Orlando City on Fox 35 Plus is brought to you in part by Orlando Health, Exploria Resorts, Disney Springs, Publix, Ford, Fairwinds Credit Union, Heineken, Rasmussen College, Orlando International Airport, City Furniture, JetBlue, and Pizza Hut.
Another look at the soccer capital of MLS as we get closer and closer to MLS is back. Orlando City and Inter Miami on July 8th at 8 p.m. on ESPN. But of course, that is one of only 3 games that are coming up for Orlando City in the Group A group stage presented by Heineken. They will also play New York City FC. That game is going to happen next Wednesday night, July 14th or Tuesday night, I should say, at 10:30. And then the Monday morning game against Nashville, July 20th at 9 a.m. That one also on ESPN. But now we want to welcome in Jenny Chu live in Kissimmee, and Jenny has more on Oscar Pareja. Jenny?
Evan, I spoke to Oscar Pareja about his approach to this tournament, and he said it is their responsibility to aim at winning this tournament. He talked about being a protagonist, something that we've heard from him since the very first press conference as Orlando City's head coach. He talked about always aiming at being the best at winning, and that's something that we've heard from the players as well. They are no longer talking about making the playoffs. Every single player I've talked to has talked about winning the East, winning the conference, and Oscar has talked about how it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a process, absolutely, but they are aiming at winning this thing. He gave a speech before heading into the bubble where I was ready to run through a brick wall for him. Take a listen.
Players and coaches need to feel blessed to have the opportunity to work first. I think this pandemic and this period has shown us all that we are very fragile, that we can lose our jobs. Many people have, and we have still the opportunity to perform. So we have to be grateful. We have to be positive, and sharing fields, sharing restaurants, and sharing things. That's not a problem at all. We will adjust. It's the game. What matters right now is our club, our clubs, our objectives, and the players. And the game itself is what matters now.
Pretty powerful stuff from Oscar Pareja.
Yeah, you know, I just think that to be a good coach, one of the things that you need to have is to be a great motivator, and he has proven that day in and day out. I remember when he first came into Orlando City, he said, we always gotta aim high, because when you aim low, you run the risk of actually achieving that low goal, so you must aim high. So he's a great motivator. Show me a player that says they're not motivated and ready to run through a wall for Oscar Pareja, and I will show you a liar.
Man's had a lot of success. He's had a lot of good players, too, and Luis Muzzi gave him a really good one in Pedro Galese, Orlando City's brand new #1. Let's learn a little bit more about El Pulpo.
Tu liderazgo es algo que inmediatamente vi. En los primeros entrenamientos que tuvo el equipo, le estás gritando a todos, hasta los de enfrente, de que tú ves esto, se tienen que mover aquí y acá. ¿Eso de tu personalidad siempre lo has tenido o es algo que vas aprendiendo, vas mejorando?
Sí, yo creo que fui mejorando con el tiempo. Agarré bastante ejemplo de los arqueros que tenían más experiencia que yo. El arquero es el que está siempre viendo de atrás todo, entonces tenemos esa ventaja.
Pedro, en San Martín fuiste el tercer arquero. No te tocaba jugar. Platícame sobre esa experiencia y qué aprendiste.
Yo llegué a San Martín a los 16 años. Llego muy chico, con bastantes ilusiones. Tenía la mentalidad esa de llegar y después debutar, atajar, pero me encuentro con una realidad que era otra, ¿no? Estuve 7 años de tercer arquero y entonces fue bastante duro para mí. Pasaban los años, pasaban los días. Había momentos que decía, no, yo voy a dejar esto, ya voy a buscar algo, un trabajo, algo, porque van pasando los años y no sé qué va a ser en mi futuro. Pero después automáticamente decía, no, esto es lo mío, voy a seguir esforzándome, voy a ser constante con esto. Y después ya me toca ser titular en un partido donde me dieron la confianza y bueno, atajé bien y después de ahí fui haciendo mi carrera. Tuve un año muy bueno, que salí el mejor arquero en Perú y luego me convocan a la selección, ahí en ese mismo año me convocan a la selección, entonces fue como que un premio a todo mi esfuerzo, ¿no?
¿Qué significa ser un héroe en Perú?
Después de no sé cuántos años que no íbamos a un mundial, la gente siempre nos agradece y eso es bueno, ¿no? Eso es bueno porque nos esforzamos mucho, pero nosotros le queremos darle otro mundial y seguro que ahora vamos a pelear el doble para eso.
Y los fanáticos de aquí, de Orlando, que todavía no saben mucho de ti, ¿qué les dirías de ti?
En mí van a ver un arquero bastante divertido, pero a la vez serio cuando hace su trabajo.
Can't wait to see more from El Pulpo. Coming up, we're going to hear about Luis Nani, Orlando City's captain, and much more from inside the bubble at Walt Disney World Resort. The Orlando City Tournament Preview presented by Ford continues next. Welcome back to the Orlando City Tournament Preview presented by Ford. Orlando City and Inter Miami coming up very, very soon, Wednesday, July 8th at 8 p.m. We talked a little bit about the coaches, about the rivalry, about how this was going to come together. But let's dial in on these rosters a little bit. And I want to welcome Jenny Chu back from Kissimmee. She has our Publix Ultimate Tailgater report. And when you start talking about Orlando City, Jenny, you pretty much have to start with one Luis Nani.
Evan, this is Luis Nani's first game under Oscar Pareja, and it has been 275 days since he has played in a competitive match. Remember, he missed the first 2 games of the season because he got a red card in the last game of the 2019 season. But I spoke to him about this at depth, and you know what he said to me? This is the best he has ever felt. At first, when things shut down, he was anxious, he was upset, he didn't know how to react. It had been so long. But then he took a step back, and he took advantage of the moment. On and off the field. He spoke to me about off the field, getting to spend the most amount of time he has ever spent with his son and how much that has absolutely renewed him. And on the field, he has been incredibly disciplined. I have been to every training session before they went into the bubble, and I'm telling you guys, he was outstanding. He was so sharp. He is scoring and assisting in those intra-squads at an incredible rate, and this is the best Luis Nani I have seen in his time here at Orlando. And I am saying that, I'm taking a risk saying that that is the best I have seen him, and I am looking forward to everybody getting to see this renewed Luis Nani. Evan?
Jenny, I know that if we see that picture of Luis Nani that he posted on Twitter at the pool at the resort, I think he can probably back up that this is the best shape he's ever been in. And you add him to this group that Orlando City has going for it. I know we don't have the actual lineup at the time we're putting this together, Miguel, but how do you see Oscar Pareja using the options at his disposal to set up for this game against Miami?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and I know everybody's curious and is wondering what that's going to look like, because the first 2 games of the season, we saw 2 different lineups. And I think if you put pressure on me, Evan, I would say that he's going to set up with a 4-2-3-1 with some variations. Reason why is because when they played versus Real Salt Lake, they were very dominant. They controlled Salt Lake to a low goal scoring expected. And so I think that that's the way they're going to go.
Oh, and you look at the Colorado game, they started in 3-5-2, but they didn't have any of their 3 designated players for that game. They should all be available for selection for the Miami game. How does that change things? How important are these 3 guys to the success of this team?
Massive. You have to have your DPs produce if you want to be a successful team in Major League Soccer. Dom Dwyer, of course, hasn't been quite as good in the last couple of seasons, but he's eager. He's training really, really well. But the key for me is how are you going to make Luis Nani and Pereira work? You look at Luis Nani's history in Europe and Manchester United, he was cashing checks and snapping necks on the flanks, getting isolated. 1v1 is unbelievable. He's proven that day in and day out in Major League Soccer. I think if you do that, you will create chances. And you look at Mauricio Pereira in his natural habitat, the number 10, because he's a provider. He's proven that every time he stepped on the pitch for Orlando City. I think that if you're able to get those guys working together, Orlando City is going to have a lot of chance creation and hopefully a lot of goals.
You look at Miami's DPs, and there's 2 really young guys, and then Rodolfo Pizarro is a Mexican national team starter, but a very different number 10 than Mauricio Pereira. They wear the same number, but Miguel, you think they play the game very differently for that position?
Yeah, look, Mauricio Pereira is more of an old-school natural number 10. We've seen that he's a provider. He loves assisting. But Rodolfo Pizarro, he's a winner. He's a different type of player. He's won with Pachuca out of just pure effort. He's got a lot of talent, and he's the one guy that Diego Alonso can see as a guarantee that he will be successful, hopefully, for them, if he can adapt to Major League Soccer quickly.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take you inside the bubble at the Walt Disney World Resort and give you a closer look at the Orlando City players as they prepare for their first game, the first game overall in the MLS's back tournament. We're back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the Orlando City Tournament preview presented by Ford. Orlando City preparing for their journey in the MLS's back tournament at the Walt Disney World Resort. Evan Weston and Miguel Gallardo here with you as we continue to break it down. And the players are inside a bubble right now, closed off to the outside world. They weren't for the last 4 months. And, of course, we are in the midst of an unprecedented global pandemic, at least in our lifetimes. And Miguel, we saw the team, and we saw every team in the league kind of go into this uncharted waters, right? How did you see Orlando City handle this and keep the players in the best possible shape to come into this tournament?
Well, the reality is that, like you said, this is unprecedented. I talked to Fabian Bazan, the strength and conditioning coach for Orlando City, and he said all kinds of things have happened in my life. I've been fired from jobs, I've been hired, given promotions, but never this situation. There's no manual as to how to handle this situation. And when you add the fact that there are new coaching staff that's trying to establish a culture, build a philosophy and a culture, it becomes even that much more difficult. It's going to be interesting. They've had to be very, very creative. I don't have the answer how well they've handled it. We're going to find out when we see the chemistry, when we see the fitness levels of the players here in a couple of days.
Yeah, we want to take you through this time from March when everything was shut down through now when the MLS's back tournament is set to begin. Orlando City's journey through the pandemic.
Sorry for the confusion.
Buenos días. ¿Cómo está? ¿Usted?
Orlando City hosts Chicago Fire for the St. Patrick's Day theme night on Saturday at 6:30.
Quick question. Coronavirus impacting a lot of people around the world, specifically sporting events is a big thing. Is there any concern about it impacting Orlando City, MLS, or anything else?
I'm Scott Van Pelt here at ESPN. This astounding and unprecedented story continues to evolve.
Breaking news tonight on several fronts on the coronavirus pandemic.
Breaking news. The MLS joining the party when it comes to suspending play.
We shut down operations on March 12th.
But the truth of the matter is that regular life is in jeopardy right now.
This moment in our history transcends sports.
It's really anyone's guess at this point in time.
Concerning.
We will pass this situation. Soccer will be back.
Let's take a peek at what Orlando City players have been doing to stay fit.
Hey everybody, Evan, Jenny, and Miguel here, and we've got some exciting news for everybody as Orlando City is part of the group of teams in MLS that has resumed individual voluntary workouts.
Some outlets have reported the possibility of an MLS tournament in Orlando.
Breaking news out of our HQ studios here down in Fort Lauderdale.
At long last, MLS is back.
Orlando City going into the bubble. They're going to face Inter Miami on July 8th.
Orlando City has officially arrived in the bubble at Walt Disney World.
Feels great just to be able to play a match again. It's indescribable, and we can't wait.
Fantastic job by our video guys on that one. And as we get set for the tournament, we want to take you inside this MLS is back bubble at the Walt Disney World Resort. We're going to bring Jenny back in from Kissimmee. Jenny, what can you tell us about the situation inside the bubble for the players?
Evan, life inside the bubble at the Swan and Dolphin is a lot like preseason. They're on very strict schedules. They have multiple sessions a day. And in these sessions, they've been playing a ton of inter-squad, 11v11. But up until a week before the tournament started, they had not solidified a starting 11, which is very interesting, but just raised the level of competitiveness in training because everyone is continuing to fight to prove themselves to head coach Oscar Pareja and his staff. After every one of these training sessions, there is mandatory recovery. There is also mandatory nap time in every single day's schedule, which is something that should be added to everyone's schedule. But after that, they get to play with each other. They get to play video games, ping pong, go to pool, whatever it may be. They're always competing with each other. But there's one thing I wanted to clarify about the bubble. People have been talking on social media about the food, potentially not being great. I inquired for you guys, and all Orlando City members have told me that the food is wonderful. They've had steak, they've had salmon. So just to ease your worries there, the food is good in the bubble.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm totally with you on mandatory nap time as well. That is absolutely clutch. Listen, Miguel, with all this and you know the whole talk about the bubble and everything, what's your take on it?
Well, look, I'm not there. I know that there's a less than tasty sandwich floating around the internet right now, but the reality is I heard Jenny say steaks, naps, movies, pool. That's the bubble life I want to live in. But I'm not standing next to Luis Nani. Have you seen his 8-pack? Have you seen that? I have a
Unbelievable.
I have a 6-pack, but of Heineken, of course, the non-alcoholic kind. But look, I think players, you want to make sure that they're comfortable. We know Disney has a great infrastructure, and they're doing the best that they can to provide entertainment for these fellas, but also keep them as safe as possible so they can concentrate in the game because that's what we want to see. That's going to bring some happiness during these difficult times.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was a little jealous when I found out they were going to be at the Swan and Dolphin. It's one of my favorites. All right, when we come back, we are going to have more on Inter Miami. We're going to take a look at this new expansion club. It has seemingly been in the works forever for David Beckham. It is now here. We'll talk about Inter Miami when the Orlando City tournament preview comes back. We are ever closer to Orlando City and Inter Miami kicking off the MLS is Back group stage presented by Heineken. This is the Orlando City tournament preview. It is brought to you by Ford. Orlando and Miami have both been in the bubble now for a little while. They are preparing for this tournament, and both teams are going to be playing along with everybody else at the ESPN Wide World of Sports facility. A magnificent place for this all to happen. A world-class facility, tons of fields. And both teams, I think, very, very eager at this point after 4 months off to get out onto the pitch.
Yeah, they're excited, right? They're excited. It's been a long time since they've been able to kick the ball in a competitive match, so they're very eager to come in and compete right away.
Well, I'll tell you, too, if Orlando City wins, you win with Pizza Hut, as all Pizza Hut locations in the area will have 50% off regular price large pizzas if Orlando City wins. Lions win is the code to use to get your 50% off regular priced large pizza. Let's get into this matchup a little bit, Miguel, with Inter Miami. This is a team that, I mean, we've been hearing about a Miami MLS team for a long, long time. Really, we've been hearing about a David Beckham MLS team for almost 15 years. When David Beckham came into the league with LA Galaxy, it was part of his contract that he would be allowed to start an expansion team after he retired. It's a pretty sweet deal if you can get it. But David Beckham is about as big of a soccer star as there is.
It was a very attractive incentive for him to come to Major League Soccer from Real Madrid at a relatively good age, I would say. He came in, he delivered not only on the pitch, he won titles with LA Galaxy, but I think he was a major part of bringing MLS to the global stage, and he started getting people talking about Major League Soccer even more. Now in a big role, now in a new role for him. Let's see how he handles, wearing those nice suits and not being the one getting kicked on the soccer field.
Well, it's a little bit like how we talk about Kaká here, though, right? It's a guy who transcends soccer in a way that kind of brings people in. But what do you think of this roster that they put together here?
Well, I think the formula is very clear. Let's get a lot of MLSers into this team, experience in this team, guys that know the ins and outs of the league, like Juan Agudelo, like Luis Robles, who's, by the way, their captain. What a stand-up guy, phenomenal goalkeeper. You got Lee Wen coming from LAFC, fantastic player as well. Roman Torres, a MLS season, an MLS champion for Seattle Sounders. So we'll see how that formula combines with the players that are unproven coming from other countries.
Yeah, your young guys, your Matias Pellegrinis, your Carranzas, his younger players for Inter Miami. But when you look at Orlando City, this is a roster that was very young last year. They've brought in a few experienced veterans from South America to reinforce the squad. We heard about Pedro Galese earlier, but Junior Urso and Antonio Carlos also very important.
Well, you need a strong spine to have success, and Junior Urso has proven that he's a very strong player in the middle, bringing balance, but also getting in the box a lot. He did it about 4 times versus Real Salt Lake in the first game. He was very, very close to scoring a goal. You got Antonio Carlos, a center back already, forming a strong and powerful partnership with Robin Janssen, the game that they played together. And of course, Pedro Galese, World Cup experience, a hero in his home country of Peru. You need a solid goalkeeper that provide that confidence, provide that solidity, and he's a player that has done that for many years.
Miguel, let's take a closer look into this. You diagrammed this really well. Oscar Pareja's use of pressure.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of talk about teams, how they're going to approach this tournament, how maybe they can sit back and absorb pressure and attack. I don't think that's going to be the case for Orlando City particularly. They're going to pick the times to attack. They're going to look to condense the field. They're going to look for cues like this one when players are looking into their own goal or reading bad passes to be able to come and apply that pressure and create chances like that, like we see here. It's going to be a team that's going to bite. It's going to be a team that's going to look for their times to attack and apply that pressure. One of those is looking for those bad passes. Look at this pressure from Junior Urso here, how high he gets to force the error to the potential playmaker to make that bad pass back. And then there's that cue by Chris Mueller to come, apply pressure, and then again create another half a chance. They won't be able to do it all the time. At times, they're going to have to drop back a little bit deeper, like in this play right here. The confrontation line is a little bit deeper. They're going to look for those cues. They're going to look at players like in this right here, former Orlando City player Donny Toya. He looks down. Chris Mueller here is just waiting for that clue. And the moment he looks at the ball, loses contact of the ball, you're going to see here Chris Mueller running like a train to apply that pressure, and again steals the ball again. And when the other team is kind of figuring out what they're about to do, you have to have a team that's short and compact, and that's when players like center backs, Antonio Carlos, very athletic, they have the ability to stay compact, come close, and eventually come and be able to nick those balls away when the other team decides to play balls over the top. However, fitness is going to be an issue. So they're going to have to be smarter. They're going to have to be more calculated and well organized and pick their times better when they do decide to press up the field.
Summer heat, too, especially if it doesn't rain, absolutely a factor. 8 p.m. is not going to be that cool at the Walt Disney World Resort. We got a little bit more coming up here. Orlando City Tournament Preview presented by Ford. Rolls on next.
Orlando City on Fox 35 Plus has been brought to you in part by Orlando Health, Exploria Resorts, Disney Springs, Publix, Ford, Fairwinds Credit Union, Heineken, Rasmussen College, Orlando International Airport, City Furniture, JetBlue, and Pizza Hut.
Well, I guess that's just about all there is to it. We've gone through both of these teams, the road to the tournament, the road to this Florida derby, and now all there is to do is sit back and watch the game. Soccer is back. Orlando City and Inter Miami bringing it back to America.
The stage is set. Everybody's eager. The players are extremely excited. The supporters are extremely excited. Let's go. Football is back.
It is. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday, July 8th. It is on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app. Want to bring a special thank you to our Senior Director of Broadcasting, Marcos Perez, and our Broadcast Coordinator, Brielle Toldo, for putting this all together, and our fantastic crew. This was an incredible undertaking from a lot of folks, and we couldn't have done it without every single one of them. For Miguel Gallardo, my name is Evan Weston. Thank you very much, and welcome back, soccer.
Great job, guys. Good stuff. Don't say anything. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna have to check it. See if they all work. That was a good catch, guys.